for chipping ice or installing or removing ice screws. I put my wrist through the bottom strap to avoid dropping it, but I couldn't grab on to the hammer. The axe I could set in the ice had a strap halfway up the shaft, so I could release go and hang with my hand open. There was no respite with the hammer, and my swing was shorter than with the axe, so my climb was much slower than everyone else's that day. We weren't the only squad climbing on the ice. From my experience, the goosebumps were powerful. I felt like every muscle in my body pulsed separately. My jaw clattered like a cartoon, my tongue waggling in my mouth, my eyeballs and every muscle in my body twitching violently. I was freezing, therefore my body tried to stay warm. Tim, my climbing partner, was in the same scenario, and we knew we were in serious danger. I had to expend energy to stay warm, but as I did so, I became weaker since I didn't have any calories. My body soon started to devour itself. Ketosis began. The cold made my eyeballs freeze. I could feel the back of my eyes. My brain slowed. Due to my heat and irrationality, I didn't care when my companion Tim yelled at me. I realized I was going to die there, and my childhood mystical experiences taught me about heaven, compassion, wisdom, eternity, infinity, comfort. After surrendering, I thought about those things, not my childhood beliefs. Thinking about my childhood erased my fear. I then thought about my parents losing me. I was going to die and break their hearts, but I didn't want to hurt them. After that, I fell asleep. Sometimes I fell asleep, and it was like a curtain falling, bringing darkness. I would collapse, banging my head on the rock and shoulder, then wake up from shock and pain. I stood up and pulled the rope many times. Then I stood up one last time and saw a huge dark circle surrounding my peripheral vision for the first time. As I looked, this large dark circle collapsed quickly and moved with my head. I stare at the rocks, Tim, and the mountains across the parkway, a freeway with a parking lot 70 meters distant. I could hear the river on the other side, but my eyesight kept getting tighter, confusing me. Not understanding what was going on, I believed I was falling asleep as it got closer to this tiny area. I didn't fall asleep when it fell to darkness. I woke up, so everything I say is metaphor. I had no brain, therefore I had no language, but my soul has memory, and after I came back, that worked with my brain to give me a memory of it without words. I've spent a lot of my life trying to think about it and talk about it. Everything is metaphor. After waking up, I was shocked to see no pain and no mountain. I was bewildered because I felt like I was still me but outside my body. I looked human yet was made of no idea. Not like darkness or light. Not quite human and not quite out of my body. I didn't grasp the enormous, gorgeous darkness in front of me where the mountain had been or where I believed it had been. Little light appeared like a star on a dark night and rushed toward me from far away. As it surged at me, it filled the darkness and communicated telepathically without language or my brain because I didn't have one. Energy to soul told me I was moving with it. It was taking me. I wasn't terrified since I recognized this celestial creature as the one that had visited me as a child. But I didn't want to go since I didn't know what was happening. I resisted, but it took me like a flower from a field. Flowers have no option. I was pulled out of myself and wrapped like a cloud. My body changed while I was there. My body was suddenly light and human-shaped. I felt disconnected from my body. I was constantly connected to my body when I was pulled out as a child. I could feel the link was gone now. I was fed comfort and compassion while disconnected from that shape. I witnessed its immense wisdom and strength. I couldn't move or halt the occurrences. I was carried. This huge thing carried me back up the way it came. It was like a ball of energy, wisdom, and heavenly presence that was smaller than the supreme being who was entwined with it. It was two places at once. I realized that this angelic entity was the complete divine body of light, carrying me, albeit smaller. In two locations at once, I was inside, and it was carrying me up the way it had come. I held two posts. This angelic entity was transparent to this profound darkness, and I could see through it. Like God's sight, I saw myself and the angelic creature outside. The second perspective showed this energy and energy body inside it. In this angelic creature, traveling back up the direction I had come, this eye could see me, and I could see inside myself that I was seeing that. That eye wasn't visible from here when my light body gazed, but I had two perspectives in my head. I was also superpositioned. I was the angelic being's eye and the eye that saw me. I was carried up the direction it came. When I reached the edge of this interim region between the worlds, where the light had initially arrived, this angelic creature unfolded, or I popped out of it, and I was no longer imprisoned inside of it. My human-shaped luminous body vanished. I was a vast consciousness in this region of nothingness. None existed. Quarks, planets, and molecules were absent. This immense universal womb of God was divine energy, but it was nothing. I was nothing. Despite having no brain or structure, I was cognizant. I could see, think, be, and move. Nothing separated these parts of me. My self was integrated. I realized as this integrated self that this was my initial self, and then I remembered my true self and realized that I had always been this energy and had been living in that body, but it was my temporary home. I was back to myself as usual. I knew myself, so here I am in this enormous space. It's huge and I can see everywhere. It's the size of our universe, but dark and far from it. Despite its darkness, I can see in it, except for the farthest edge, where I couldn't see to a larger darkness. That bigger darkness, which seemed infinity away, had an edge I couldn't see. That edge suddenly revealed this light, which was far away at first and then quite close. I was huge compared to my human body, as the darkness broke open and poured this tremendous deluge of light. This was the most magnificent light I'd seen. White light had a synchronous flow. It was one light and all these small light particles. These light particles were like the hues of the stars, but not just visible light that I can see with my human eye, but X-rays, infrared rays, ultraviolets, microwaves, microns, and much more. Each one was unique. Thus, it wasn't switching between white and various colors, but both. It was both multiplicity and singularity. The most gorgeous. I could see a solid, translucent surface. I could see that flow's depth, and through it. Through it was darker. It felt like a tunnel into darkness. And I wanted. Once I saw it, I wanted it. I moved toward it like it moved toward me when I desired it. I got close to this mic and wanted it with my energy body. So I touched it. As I touched it, it poured into me, dragged me inside, and expanded. All of this happened simultaneously. It's in timelessness. I heard my name, but not my human name, and since I had no ear, I heard it totally. My whole self was summoned into being then and eons ago. The paradox is always now, but time elongates, and I realized that I was being breathed into existence, named into being, called into being, made in that moment, and had lived for ages. This constant naming gave me life. Not just human life, but energy body life. That I was, Creator made my soul. I realized I was a being with a Creator-made soul. My life review, this gigantic eye, appeared, and this eye of light peered at me, and I was back in a light-shaped body. It saw my complete life, my life review, everything I had ever been. The divine lived it alongside me, not separately. I was a creature created by the Creator, but the Creator dwelt with me. My life was mostly light, except for some things I tried to hide. Some of my life's actions couldn't stand the light, and they were described as peanuts and shells. I tried to hide that from the light, but it saw it more clearly, and I entered it. When I tried to hide it, the light plunged me into darkness. All my pain from giving everything away was in this space. I had a hell or a purgatory, depending on how you talk about it, where I felt all the anguish I gave everyone from within. As if I were them, I felt their grief, fury, and desire to be terrible to me. Their biological system, adrenaline, heartbeat, and everything else were all sensed simultaneously. I'm this person here and this person here. My emotions and motivations for wanting to hurt them are mine. I'm feeling all the things that went through my mind at each instant. Why I wanted to hurt that individual. Then there was this sequence, and I always remained myself but switched personalities constantly. My family was highlighted in this and that person. I was in my sister, dad, mom, and brother, and the suffering I gave them was far worse than I expected. What I thought was a thumbnail of anguish was actually a fist-sized pain, and it was mine. I remembered, and the pain I gave them was 10 times, 10,000 times more than I expected. The divine being inside and around me is speaking to me in a languageless way as I struggle through this life review of hell. I'm hearing love, mercy, welcome, forgiveness, and healing. It speaks brightness and love, but I only see anguish. I started listening to the words and facts because I was linked to the suffering. When I listened, my heart transformed. For some reason, I stopped looking at myself and my sorrow and started listening to the love I had received and given away. It became my ear for hearing love. When I listened to love, I was free. There was no judgment day for me. I compared myself and my shame to this good being who only desired love for me. It kept saying, "I have loved you every moment of your life. Every single moment when you were causing all that pain, I loved you then. My love is unending, and I knew you. I know you. I've never not known you, and I've always loved you. You are my beloved." As I turned to the light, I saw all of humanity, every human being, and our limited nature in comparison to this unlimited nature. It altered my view of everyone. That only God is flawless, not us. My imperfection was no different from everybody else's in comparison to this boundless purity. Standing on the moon and looking at the earth, which looks like a smooth spherical ball, is different from standing on the ground and staring up at the Himalayas. Down here, there's judgment, but up there, none. There's great equality between humanity's limited nature and boundless purity. When forgiveness and mercy welcomed me, I stopped criticizing myself. I enlarged when I faced the light internally. All of the spirituality we divide on earth, truth, love, wisdom, understanding, serenity, bliss, was one to me. Light, peace, beauty, love, knowledge, understanding, wonder, adoration, and thankfulness were one energy being. This energetic entity filled and extended me. I was blown up like a balloon by this brightness, till I was barely 1/100th of a thousandth of myself. Most of me was heavenly love, which was all I sought. However, I reached a point where I felt I would have melted and returned to darkness. As this happened, I saw myself as a solitary photon outside in darkness, outside a large field of photons, a quadrillion times a septillion. In this deep area aloft to either side, and below me, I couldn't see its origin or depth. Each photon was superpositioned. So, they're all one gigantic energy field of consciousness, made up of individualized photons, including me. I'm superpositioned with it, but also outside of it. Thus, I'm projected from it as a more limited version of it. As I unite with this area, I see my bottom soul. This is my ultimate self, and my lower soul self is continuously called into being with this unpronounceable name that has existed for ages. I can see it, and it's a long loaf of bread, like a baguette, emerging out of the darkness, and all of these pearls, like pearls within a baguette, are incarnations of me. To think about this, these pearls are strung together, but separated by the string. I had many, many incarnations, and they were all little universes. All of them were inside me, but neither were my highest nor soul selves. I was curious about any of their lives. When I wished to know this, I was flown down from my photonic self into my soul self, where I entered one of these pearls and was in another realm. I was in another body, strolling down this dusty street with sandals, wearing antique Middle Eastern garb, one-story buildings, with thousands of people walking here and there, like a highway of ancient times. And I was walking with this group, and we were having a conversation in a language I understood then, but not now. I was in this guy's body, saw his feet and hands, and turned as they spoke. They asked me a question, and I turned to see a group of men asking me a question. It looked like we were a spiritual group strolling on a road going somewhere. Once I started answering, I was pulled out of that body and gone back, lives, into this lizardy thing, this little animal with different shaped eyes and a different capacity for seeing light, because everything was new to me, colors, shapes, shadows. I felt like I was hidden under a shadow. I was dragged out of this life, and all of these lives were for me. From where I was, they happened simultaneously. The chronology was chronological, yet they all happened at once for me, and none of them were me. Though I was in them, I was far higher. Everything was temporary. Once out, I sought to grasp the universe's structure. When I sought to discover how our universe was made, chemistry, biology, astrophysics, mathematics, quantum physics, and everything else flooded me. I understood everything about how it operated. I didn't know how it was made. When I returned, I lost 99.999% of my connectivity. I returned with this tiny seed, which was enough to realize that this vertical trip is my purpose. Liberation is my goal. My existence is about pursuing heavenly energy and making choices in the world. In my spiritual connection, my goal in life is to be the finest father, grandfather, husband, and friend while helping others discover their light. I want to help others find what I know. Over the years, I've found that the deeper I go into my spiritual life, the clearer my spiritual path and mission in the world become. I already seek its source, so I don't need to look for it. My existence then involves walking through doors that open for me and not others. This is magical because heaven permeates everything. Because my objective is focused, I don't let missteps or closed doors